Neglected refugees, yet the human suffering is so real. Tears that flow, silences that speak, eyes that search, thoughts that wander, whys and hows that may never be answered. My last humanitarian mission to Chad left me with some vivid memories. It was 7:40 a.m. when our humanitarian flight took off from Yaoundé, Simalen. The temperature was 31 degrees Celsius. A few hours later, we landed in beautiful N'Djamena, 45 degrees Celsius in the shade, a good indicator of the arid context in which I and other visiting colleagues were going to work. N'Djamena was all calm after the presidential elections that have just taken place. Brief stop at the hotel, team debriefing and departure to the first refugee camp. But nothing went according to plan. The humanitarian flight to our first destination, Farana, was cancelled. We were forced to take an intermediate flight followed by a 3-hour drive to Farshana. Farshana is one of the 15 Sudanese refugee camps in eastern Chad. It is home to around 8,000 refugees from 3,000 households with 67% of children. In Farshana, I met Sarah, aged 20. Former nurse and Red Cross volunteer in her native Sudan, Sarah had to abandon everything, including her patients, to seek refuge in Chad. She still remembers that tragic night like it happened yesterday. I was on duty that night, she says. I was caring for a patient when suddenly we heard gunshots. I left everything behind and ran to our family home. We left our house for an unknown destination. On the way, my pregnant sister was shot to death by unknown assailants. Many other women were beaten, killed, and many children made orphans, she says with tears. Our journey continued the next day with a stopover at the border. A makeshift stone served as the boundary between Chad and Sudan. For many Sudanese, crossing this stone means hope. People arrive in numbers: women, men, children, cattle. Tired faces, shaky feet, dry mouth, emaciated bodies, despair in their eyes. Yet for them, crossing the stone represents the promised land. I met the brave Nyala at the border. She fled her native Jenena with her 2 children in March 2024. Living in a transit camp, she had to return to the border for the registration procedures that gives the refugees status. Unfortunately, she could not be received because she had not brought her belongings with her. She had to go back to get them. Like hundreds of her compatriots waiting impatiently to be registered, she cries desperately. It is 5 hours by foot back to the temporary camp. I'm tired. We are hungry. I can't go back. Please help me. Next destination, the temporary refugee site of Adre. What a crowd, my God. 220,000 refugees, including 58,000 households with 62% of children. The thirsty looks on the faces of the children around us clearly describe the misery in which they live. Some are desperately scratching a pot in the courtyard, others in the makeshift tent waiting for the day and time of the next cooking. When will it take place? No one knows. Then comes the big journey, a 2-hour drive to Oran. Oran is the refugee camp where Plan International has based its operations in Chad for now. It was named Abu Tenge by its inhabitants. It is home to around 50,000 refugees in over 12,000 households, including 88% of women and girls. Here, I met 16-year-old Kausa. She lives with her grandmother and aunt. She was constantly in tears during our conversation. She is traumatized by the memory of her loved ones, especially her mother, who was killed in front of her, and her two missing brothers. When asked any questions, she either stays silent or she cries. Fortunately, Kausa was able to return to school. He attends Abutenge Primary School where she has made friends. Going back to school puts a smile on her face despite everything. Her headmistress is proud of her. That headmistress, Mrs. Sarah. She was lucky enough to arrive in Chad with all her family and was able to retrain as a teacher. She is proud to run the Abutenge Primary School built by Plan International and partners. The school has 366 pupils, including 297 girls and 69 boys. Abutenge is also home to the camp's only child-friendly space. Open from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., this space is a sanctuary where 300 children a day, like 9-year-old Abdul, learn to be a child again. After all the shocks and traumas experienced during the war, proof that there is hope. Yes, there is hope if the international communities rally around this neglected crisis, if donors act, and if the war comes to an end. In one of the welcoming songs sung by the pupils of Abutenge Primary School, the chorus speaks to us. Sudan's sky is silver and its earth is gold. We love our homeland. The most ardent wish of these peoples is to return to their country. Until then, we must act. The needs are enormous. Refugee camps continue to be created and overcrowded. The health and monitoring centers continue to be overcrowded with malnourished children. Women like Fatia continue to give 1 cup of water per child per day in order to ration the small quantities available. Young girls like Salma continue to lack the minimum of their bodily and menstrual hygiene and are at risk if nothing is done to protect them. The Sudanese refugee crisis is undoubtedly more dramatic than most people imagine. Let's stand up for Sudanese refugees. Let's act in Chad.